What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of High Mythology, the show where we get higher than the great eagle that oversaw creation and try to tell you guys some funny stories. Today, we will be going over the Basket Ogress and the Clever Children.
Heyo, I'm Kymbo.
Kim, take it away.
Okay, so this story comes from the Tulalip Indian tribe where I grew up. And I would just like to point out that the stories are vague yet straight to the point. So the story is called, you guys, the Basket Ogress.
The Basket Ogress.
And
there was a lot. It seemed to be a lot of one of those too, where the original story had a lot of the names were very generic. Like they ran out of ideas when it came to naming. Like, what do we call her? Giant woman, and then we'll call the hunchback, and the kids.
Yeah, we don't even want to bother naming them. We're just going to call them the kids. This group of boys.
The group of kids.
Yeah. So, the story actually has no names of any of these characters, so as I'm going to randomly name them as I go and make it easier to follow. I'm not really... Yeah, I think I'm just going to call it Hunchback Quasimodo. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay, I'm just going to...
Quasimodo. Not to be confused, because we probably will talk about Quasimodo at some point, right? That's a real thing, I assume.
Yeah, it's a story, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's real. I don't really know anything about it. I'd have to look it up.
How real is any of this? But
It's true.
But still.
So there once was a village that lived peacefully along the shores near a river that drained into the sea. And the village's healer lived about 5 days' journey from the river. And whenever someone was sick or injured, at least like 15 people would all travel together and seek her help. And they traveled like this because it was dangerous not to. And so the healer is well loved by the village, and even more so by all the children, for she would make all this sweet fry bread and give it to the children while she told stories.
Fry bread.
Yeah. And the kids loved these amazing and wondrous stories that she told. And while she helped their loved ones, she was like grandma.
Yeah, I
know. What I mean?
That's fucking
you travel
multi-purpose.
5 days to go see grandma.
She cooks me fry bread and tells me amazing stories.
How fucking awesome is that? Okay. So one year the village was blessed with no sickness or serious injury, so no one needed to travel to see her. And then 4 little boys, let's just name them Ted, Frank, Joe, and Quasimodo.
Ted, Frank, Joe, and Quasimodo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, let's just say okay. So sometimes for Quasimodo, his friends would pick on him.
Hunchback.
Pretty much make fun
Freak.
of him. But they were family, so they're not like vindictively assholes.
Sure.
They look out for one another. But anyway. Well, I'm sure if he was in danger, like true danger, they would come fucking help him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's enemies. People get enemies. So one day they were all playing and then realized that no one had seen the healer in some time. And they thought that she might be lonely and that they would surely enjoy some fresh fry bread with a story. So the boys went to ask for permission to see the healer from their parents. The parents all assured them that she was most likely not lonely because she was not the only healer to them. There was like a few other villages in the area.
Oh, shit. It's just like a grandma party out there, basically.
Yeah.
She is fine. They all play bingo.
Yeah, exactly. And then the parents continued to say that it was way too far to let 4 small boys travel that distance alone, and no one in the village could be spared to take them. And besides, the Ogress sister lives... Oh, I guess there's one version where the Ogress sisters... There's 2 of them,
shit.
But the Ogress of the woods lives there, which is pretty much the wild woman of the woods.
The she-squatch.
She lived in the mountains, and that she loved to eat children if they wandered too far from home. They said, they will snatch you so fast like lightning and put you in a giant clam basket. And the boys met back up to discuss what their parents had told them. Apparently, all the parents said the same fucking thing.
Yeah, if you're gonna go with that, if you're gonna go with a story like that, you need to get together as a group of parents and be like, we're all telling the kids the same thing.
Exactly. I mean, I got.
Or counterbalance,
this
there
was
was
just-
actually a big
no.
old crazy lady in the woods that ate kids.
Yeah, apparently this was just known to the parents, and that's why they always traveled. It would make sense why they all traveled together
Yeah.
rather than just.
You don't want to
fucking
get
alone.
eaten by a big lady.
Yeah, and the big lady don't want to get attacked by 15 boys poking her with a stick. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know. So the boys huddled back together and said to each other that their parents had to be lying about that. That they had never heard of it before, seen any traces of their existence while learning to hunt in the forest. They also thought that maybe the other villages had had as much luck as theirs and none had been sick or injured in some time. It was possible that the healer was indeed lonely. So they made a plan to go visit her. Yeah, they made a plan. They started gathering fishing tools, hunting tools, and camping equipment pretty much. They knew it took at least 5 days to get to her, so when night came, they were ready. They snuck through the village, avoiding anyone that would stop them, and they made it all the way to a canoe rack located by the river, where the river meets the sea, and stole two canoes and 4 paddles. And they traveled all night upstream. In the morning, they continued to paddle upstream, and the boys would take turns fishing. As it became dusk, the boys decided to make camp, and they found an open clearing and pulled their canoes to the side. So Ted left to gather firewood. Frank started cleaning fish that they caught that morning. Joe started building a fire pit, gathering small sticks around where they would be sleeping to make the fire.
They're very well put together for little boys. Yeah.
And Quasimodo pulled the canoes to shore and brought the rest of their provisions to the camp, and then set out to help Ted collect some more firewood. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Leave Quasimodo to deal with the canoes.
I guess so.
Which is actually, if you
Build
think
some
about it,
strength
it's
training.
super rude.
Kind of some strength training.
He would have been way better at all the other tasks. like literally, yeah. Drag canoes up onto the shore. Like I'm a hunchback. I could do all the other stuff way easier.
Make me this fucking just your pack mule. Shit, bitches. So Joe cooked the fish, but when it came to dividing the fish for dinner, Quasimodo received the tail. He thought, what the hell? I worked so hard and my plan was the best. Why would my friends be so mean and cut me that fish that way and give me the tail?
That's just a dick move.
Right.
I'm liking these little boys less and less. They're picking on Quasimodo. I'm backing Quasi in this race.
I mean, they are kind of dicks. Mm-hmm. So after dinner, they stayed up a little longer to tell each other a story about the bear and the rabbit and how winter came to be, which is a very quick story, by the way. I read it. It's pretty simple.
How did winter come to be? Don't leave us hanging
shit.
here. Shit, come on. The bear. What's up with the bear and the rabbit?
All right, so one day the bear and the rabbit were hanging out by a fire, and they decided they wanted to play a game called Bones, where you'd shake, like, kind of like shaman shit and voodoo crap, where you'd fucking, like, shake the bones and you'd win or whatever. So they played, and then eventually Rabbit won, and he was like, I can have anything I wish for. I wish for it to always be winter. And so it became winter, and that's how winter came to be.
Huh.
It's a unique story.
Yeah, real straightforward, though. Real
And, like, the language, like, just, like, their Lashute seed language, like, it's very long just to say a sentence. And then they played. Holy shit. Just to say those 3 words?
Yeah.
It's like fucking 18 syllables.
No wonder the
random
stories
symbols.
seem so short to us.
Which kudos to the fucking tribes, man. That's some... Anyone who still knows that language, good on you. I need to learn more. I only got like 3 languages under my belt right now. You know what I mean?
Trilingual over here.
I'm working on it.
I'm old-fashioned.
Snap.
I'm an English monogamist.
Only English.
I'm faithful to English. Don't want to cheat on it with any other languages.
Well, I feel like it's my job to help my clients
Yeah.
at work.
You
for
do
those who
good.
don't speak
You do good.
English. I'm like, oh, I got you. I
Get
want to learn your
back to the
language for you.
story.
Anyway, so they told the story and they fell asleep next to the fire. So, and this was their schedule for several days. Each evening, the boys would set up their camp and prepare their dinner. And each time, Hoar Quasimodo was given the tail end for his supper.
Dicks.
After dinner, Quasimodo couldn't hold his thoughts in anymore and told his friends, if you guys are always going to be giving me the tail, when you know that I would rather have the tips, then I will call down the giant woman. Yeah. I'm going to call down this bitch.
I will call down the giant woman on you.
So the next evening, when the boys stopped to set up camp and eat their dinner, Quasimodo again was given the tail. So Quasi was pissed. He stood up.
Yeah, fuck you guys.
He stood up and he started to yell, come downhill, giant woman, come downhill. My friends are assholes and they give me all this tail end. The voices echoes through the mountains and is indeed heard by the giant ogress.
Oh, shit. She's like,
Yep.
she's probably pissed off, too. That's probably why she's so mad,
she
is
was
she
like,
got
"Oh,
stuck with the
shit,
tail
yeah,
in the beginning.
dinner
you know?
is calling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Dinner's
She's
calling.
fucking down with this, you know?
About to go eat
Parents
some
told her
children.
she fucking eats children, you know what I mean? She's like, oh, fuck yeah.
Was that just a
They're
little
calling out
kid
to
telling
me?
me to come eat
Yeah.
someone?
Exactly. It's like if I was out on a farm and I heard a chicken crowing, I'm like, oh, it says I want to kill it.
Just
Need some chicken
a steak yelling to me,
Yeah,
come eat
chicken.
these steaks. They're all being assholes. Well, don't mind if I do.
Exactly.
I'm going to eat you too, though, because you're a
Exactly.
hunchback steak, but you're still a steak.
Exactly. So the giant ogress was on top of the mountain just outside her hut chopping wood when she heard the Quasimodo's cry. She stops chopping and starts listening and thinks to herself, oh, someone is calling me. It sounds like a child, my favorite meal. She puts down her axe and grabs her giant clam basket and puts it on her back. And then she starts walking in the direction where she heard Quasimodo's voice come from. As she traveled, she would grab random things and chew on them. Trees, shrubs, patches of grass, you name it.
Just got to check.
Mm-hmm. Just kind of numb on some shit. I don't know. Maybe she was sharpening her teeth.
She had the munchies,
fucking know.
probably.
I don't know.
She's all salivating from that kid she heard calling her.
Yeah. So after some time, she saw some smoke in the distance, not too far, and started heading for that. She came across the boys asleep around their campfire and walked over to Quasimodo and picked him up. Quasimodo awoke and startled, screaming. His screaming alerted the other boys, and they woke up and started to run. The giant woman tossed Quasimodo into her giant clam basket and then instantly grabbed Ted, then Joe, put them in her basket. Then she walked a couple steps and picked up Frank, who was trying to push a canoe back into the river to escape. She puts Frank in her baskets and starts heading home.
Frank was about to ditch his homies.
Wouldn't you if you saw some shit like that? Dude, when I fucking read this story,
Poor
I was
Quasimodo.
thinking
That's the
Attack
guy I
on
feel
Titans,
for.
dude. I was like, what if a fucking Titan came at me like that, dude? But fucking intelligent. You know what I mean? For those who's Attack on Titan fans,
That's
what I think when I fucking
I
read this
feel
story.
most for Quasimodo,
This
too,
is
because he
these-
called her down from the hill. Like, fuck these guys, giant lady. Come eat them. And first one she scoops up is him. Like, look at you. You look tasty.
Fucking dinner called, man.
Yeah.
Dinner called. That's not my fault.
Oh.
Maybe he was closest to her. I don't know. Fuck, we know. So, as you can imagine, the boys were flipping out. Their parents had warned them, yet they thought it wasn't possible that she existed. So once Quasimodo calmed down, he managed to convince the other boys to let him stand on their shoulders. He poked open the lid of the basket and saw that they were going uphill and could see leaning trees up ahead of the giant woman's path. He looks back down at his friends and says, I see some leaning trees up ahead. If you, Joe, grab a hold of my ankles, and then you, Frank, grab a hold of Joe's ankles, and then you, Ted, grab a hold of Frank's ankles, then I can grab a hold of the tree and we can escape like a fishing line caught on a tree.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
He's
Smoking
still
gas
so
over
nice. He's still so nice to him.
here.
I think I would have been like, hold on, just prop me up for one more second.
Technically they did think that parents were fucking crazy. There's no
True.
fucking thing.
True,
No way
yeah.
possible, you know what I mean?
They're all family.
So
you
maybe
know,
he felt
they're-
like a
they're
dick for
friends.
fucking like, boom, I put my friends in fucking failure. Anyway, so all the boys agreed, and then when the next hanging tree came by and Quasimodo grabbed the tree and hung on tight, And as Joe was holding on to Quasimodo's ankles, the velocity of Quasimodo holding the tree caused Joe to lose grip on Quasimodo's ankles and trap the rest of the boys in the basket.
Yeah.
So, yeah, only Quasi was just dangling there from the fucking tree, and the boys kept walking up.
Boys are still stuck in the basket.
Yeah, the giant woman did notice the tug as she was walking, but thought that her basket merely caught on a passing tree and continued home. So Quasimodo stared in horror that his friends did not make it out with him and watched as the giant woman carried his friends off. Once they were out of his sight, he came to his senses and he thinks, I need to get help. So he climbs down the tree and runs as fast as his feet can carry him to where their camp was. He says, if I can make it to the canoe, I can get to the village in half a day when the giant woman has made it home. Yeah. So he thinks he can make it to the village in half a day and get some fucking help, you know what I mean?
Fuck yeah.
Travel in packs, yo.
Yeah, get that canoe ride on.
Mm-hmm. So when the giant woman makes it home, she goes into her hut, sets down the basket, and goes outside to collect rocks. A minute later, she returns with the rocks and places them on the fire that is in the center of her hut. So once the... I don't know why I wrote that. I was really fucking high when I wrote this story, sorry. So once the rocks had heated, she opens the basket lid and notices that one of the children had escaped. She thinks to herself, oh no, I can't let my favorite meal get away. She closes the basket and runs to where she found the boys. Quasimodo had indeed made it back to their camp, and he immediately started pushing out one of the canoes. Once it was in the water, he began to feel the ground shake, and he looked up and he was horrified to see the giant woman running straight for him.
Shit, bro, you better start paddling.
He turned around and jumped into his canoe. In his franticness, he forgot to grab one of the better oars. But there was still one of the oars was in it, but it had holes in it. I'm like, oh, why the fuck happened?
Why do you have an oar with holes in it?
Maybe the friends were dicks and just stole that fucking oar, didn't realize it, and then fucking just gave him some hole. I don't know. So he grabbed it and started to paddle. And when the giant woman made it to the shore, she started picking up rocks and throwing them at Quasimodo, hoping that one of them would knock him out and she can later figure out how to bring him back to shore. Every time she would throw a rock at Quasimodo, he would lift his oar and try to block it. But because the oar had holes in it, the rocks went right through the oar and hit Quasimodo. Quasimodo just kept paddling hard, and his canoe starts to go around the bend. He looks back and sees that the giant woman has given up and turned around. He continues to paddle as hard as he can to get to the villagers for help. And when the giant woman makes it back to her home, she starts to gather more rocks for her fire.
You gotta get some rocks.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have some hot rocks.
Dude, that's how they cook the fish.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Fuck yeah. I've cooked some fish with hot rocks before, too. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, it is.
It's pretty dope.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Also coming from this tribe, you know what I mean? Or living on their land and
learning
their stories.
That's all gonna be fucking hot rock salmon. Hot damn.
Mm-hmm. That shit was fucking
And what's the giant lady doing eating kids? Like,
just
you guys
meal,
literally
man.
got, like, salmon and elk up there. Like,
That's just her shit, dude.
lady.
She's boogeyman.
Get a taste.
She's
for food.
Sasquatch.
Yeah, I know. She's Squatch.
She's Squatch.
She's Squatch of the woods.
All right. So when she gets home, she starts to gather more rocks for her fire and says to herself, I cannot lose another. I must cook them quick so that the rest cannot escape my belly. When she went inside, she put the rocks on her fire and opened the basket to make sure that the rest of the children were still there. She puts the basket lid up to the side and begins to watch the rocks heat. Ted, Joe, and Frank huddled together and they watched the giant woman. They began to talk to each other, hoping one of them had an idea on how to escape. Hearing the murmurs come from the children, the giant woman turns around, looks at them, and asks, What are you children discussing amongst yourselves?
What are you fucking kids talking about?
What are you murmuring about?
I heard on the wind earlier that you're a bunch of assholes.
And the boys pause their conversation and to look at each other cautiously. Then Frank looks up at the giant woman and says, We're so happy that you're heating rocks, but before you eat us, we're hoping that you could sing and dance for us.
We need a little song and dance in our life.
The giant woman was flattered. No one had ever requested to watch her sing and dance. And she smiled at them and said, "I'm flattered at your request.
Are you fans of my YouTube channel? I didn't know I had any followers.
And I'm happy to indulge you." She backed away from the kids and began to dance around the fire in the middle of the room. As she danced, she began to sing, "The children will be roasted on the rocks. The
Yeah,
children will be
that's my
roasted on
fucking
the
jam.
rocks.
That is my
The children
jam.
will be roasted on the rocks."
Yeah, throwing the electric guitar solo there. A little bit of jazz fucking cymbals. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as she was singing and dancing, the boys began talking again. And Joe, the oldest and the strongest of the children, he looks to his friends and says, "Guys, we have to push her into the rocks. If you follow my lead, I know we can do this." The giant woman noticed them talking again and says to them, "What are you children discussing now?" And the boys pause from their conversation to look up at her. Ted says to her, "We're just so happy for you. Your song is so good. We could listen to you sing all night."
We think you really got a chance to make it.
You're the next Celine Dion.
Yeah. I know a guy. I know a guy down at RCA Records. We get that tape on his desk, and you're gonna have a career.
All right, I need to reach out to Ghostface Killa. I got a great song for you, bro. Named it after my
it's called "The
dog.
Kids Are Gonna Be Roasted on the Rocks." Giant woman,
So fucked up.
ogress with a basket.
No, I'm talking about a different one.
I know.
But yeah. Just so you know. But that sounds like a dope song that he could do as well.
Okay.
So, she started to dance again, and Joe turned to the other boys and whispered, "When she gets close to us, we need to push her hard and make her fall on the rocks."
Dick.
And the giant woman began to sing again. "The children will be roasted on the rocks.
Yeah.
The children will be roasted
Children
on
will
the
be
rocks.
roasted on the rocks.
The children will be roasted on the rocks."
Yeah, singing and dancing.
So as she was singing, she danced closer to the boys, and when she made her way into between the boys and the fire next to the basket, the boys ran at the side of the basket, and it fell into the giant woman. She stumbled back and fell onto the fire. She started screaming and flailing on top of the fire. She looked like a tortoise stuck on her back. She yelled at the children.
Help, I can't get up. I don't know how to roll over.
She yelled at the children, saying, "Remove me, remove me. I will return you to your homes if you remove me." Frank noticed a forked stick in the room and seized it.
Fucking Frankie the Fork. That's what they call him now.
He drug it to where the giant woman was flailing, and Joe and Ted saw what Frank was trying to do and started to help him. Together, the boys lifted the fork stick and dropped it on top of the giant woman and used all their strength to press it down. They didn't stop until the giant woman stopped moving. And the boys headed back to their camp, grabbed their last canoe, and headed home.
Mm-hmm. Having just freshly committed fucking homicide on a lady in the woods. And you know, okay, so here's what I'm gonna go with. Is I think the story itself, I think it's tainted. Because it's skewed, because we're seeing it through the eyes of three little assholes to pick on their fucking, on their hunchback brother. So what I think happened is I think the lady, when she was eating trees, I think she was a vegan.
I mean,
She was just bringing them back because she's like, what the fuck are these kids doing in the woods? And, you know, then she does a nice little song and dance for them. You know, it's not her fault that the top hit song of the time was "The Kids Are Getting Roasted on the Rocks." You know? When I was growing up, "Fuck the Police" was big. That didn't mean I was going to go out and fuck a policeman. So, yeah, I'm sticking with Team Quasimodo. The three other kids are assholes, and they murdered that poor lady.
I mean, the story itself is... They're more of an asshole to him, Quasi, like, actually...
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, they seem like they're
Like,
kinda
he
assholes.
stumbled on top of them. He, like, fought his way on top of the kids to escape out of the basket. And he was like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out, bitches. Good luck on your own."
See,
he did
that's-
not want to seek out the villagers' help. He left his friends to die.
That's
by
what
their
I
hands.
thought, yeah.
That is truly how the story went, but I thought it was nice to make a little story.
Oh, shit. So you changed that
I
there?
did.
Yeah, no, see, I was with Quasi there. I'm like, fuck those little assholes. Hey, hold me up, Ted. Oh, guess what, Ted? Fuck you, I'm out. Who's eating fishtails now, bitch?
I just thought it,
You made it very nice, but
I mean, nice story.
Yeah.
Try.
well, so we got our information for this episode from V. Halbert, writer of Habu, Native American Stories from Puget Sound, and Seattle University of Washington Press, 1985.
You can find her story on LeChuteSeedMythology.com. Just so you know.
TheShootSeedMythology.com.
They have the original story.
And also,
it's interesting.
yeah, big thank you to the Tulalip Native
Tulalip.
American tribe. We appreciate your amazing stories.
Yep.
Well, thank you, everybody. This has been a little short from High Mythology, and we'll be hitting you with more of these. So, hope you enjoy this little quick story.
Yep.
Peace.
Have a good night.
Good night.